This one is number 6 on your review sheet. It's a radical equation. Remember, when you do radicals, you want to isolate the radical, so we would move the negative 6 to the other side, making it a positive 6. Once we've done that, we square both sides of the radical. Now, if you square both sides of the radical, when you square a radical, it comes from outside the radical. So if we square this, we end up with x minus 4, which is what we want. When we square 6, we get 36. Now it's a very basic linear equation. That might not always happen. Sometimes you'll end up with a quadratic or any of the other kinds of equations that you know how to solve. This one, though, however, is very simple. You bring the 4 to the other side and you end up with 40. So x is going to equal 40. And you would want to make sure that you checked everything. So we would put 40 back up in our original equation. Here's our check. And we would check it, and we know that the square root of 36 is 6, and 6 minus 6 is indeed 0, so the 40 actually works. But make sure you check them. This one is number 7. It's an absolute value problem. Absolute value, remember, means the distance from 0. So if we're talking about 10, on the number line, we could be talking about 10 or negative 10. They're both 10 spots from 0. So when we do absolute value problems, we actually have two problems. 2x plus 6 equals positive 10 and 2x plus 6 equals negative 10. Only if there's an equal sign here. If there's an inequality, we have to worry about a couple of other things. But these, we just set them equal to the positive and the negative, and then we solve both of them. On the left, we move the 6 over and we get a 4, so 2x equals 4. X is going to end up equaling 2. On the right, we move the 6 over and get a negative 16. We divide both sides by 2 and we get a negative 8. We would still want to make sure we checked everything. Always, always check your answer. Here's one of those inequalities I was talking about. It's an absolute value with an inequality. If you think about the number line, and this problem is 7 steps from 0, it could be out to the negative 7. It says it's less than 7 steps. So it could be from 0 to negative 7 or from 0 to positive 7. Anything in here is less than 7 steps from 0. So we would want to write our equation based on this. All of this is less than negative 7. It's greater than negative 7, but it's less than positive 7. So we want to make sure that we've written it that way. If you have a less than, your inequalities are both going to be pointing to the left. So that's something that maybe will help some of you remember that. Less than means they're both pointing to the left. And then you simply solve the inequality just like you would any other inequality by adding 3 to both sides and dividing by 2. Once you're finished here, you can actually put this in interval notation, which is what we have out here beside it. It's set up for interval notation. Remember that we have parentheses unless we have an equal sign. If we have an equal sign, we have a bracket. Here's another inequality, except this one is greater than or equal to. So if we think about the number line once again, anything that's greater than 5 steps from 0 would be something out here, or something out here, because that's still greater than 5 steps from 0. So if we wrote our problem based on that, we have this part in the absolute value, which is all of these numbers are less than negative 5. All of these numbers are greater than 5. So that's how we've written our problem based on that. If you have trouble with that, remember that great or is an or problem. You have one facing left and one facing right. You have two problems that you have to deal with. Then you simply solve both problems exactly the same way we've always done it, and you end up with 2 answers. Now, when you get ready to do your interval notation, you're also going to have 2 intervals, and we put a union symbol between them. This one has brackets because of the equal sign.